Hello, everyone. I'm Jenny Franzen, Executive Director of the 3AF. Welcome to our 3AF Fall Webinar Series. Before I turn things over to Takashi Cheng, I wanted to share a little bit about 3AF. I know some of you have attended our events, our summit, our past webinars in the past. Others of you are new. Regardless, we are so glad you're here. In fact, if you have been to any of our events or I've met you, please feel free to say hi in the chat box. 3AF is the leading resource when it comes to Asian advertising, Asian marketing, and the power of the Asian American consumer. You can find out more about us on our website, www.3af.org. We're on social media, primarily Facebook or LinkedIn. And I also wanted to make sure that you sign up for our email news. Lastly, I want to encourage you all to attend our 3AF Asian Marketing Summit. It's the largest national conference focusing on the power of the Asian consumer. We do it every year, usually in May, and we will be announcing the dates for the 2025 location soon. Be sure to also check our website for other fall webinar series topics. We have one more. It's on November 13th, and it features Day Nam from Asian Media Group, and she's going to be talking about the next billion-dollar opportunity. So I hope I've piqued your interest. A bit of housekeeping, we are recording. We plan to post the link on the website on our webinar page. And then in terms of questions, we will have time for questions at the end. Feel free to put them in the question box and we'll get to as many of those questions as we can. Okay, so Takashi, how are you? Thank you so much for being here. And first of all, thank you for being a 3AF member. Really appreciate that.
Thank you for having me. So as
Yeah,
you guys know, I
yeah.
am the CEO of Chime TV and Golden TV. So thank you for having us, and we love supporting you guys. And your mission is as critical as ours. So we're glad that we're partners.
That's wonderful. I was checking your social media, and I know that you're known to be a serial entrepreneur, very successful at all your businesses that you start. I want to know the secret later. You're a creative investor, and you're also a thought leader. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, I think that once I did the hard work, all the things that our parents tell us to do,
Yeah.
and to get to a path of financial stability. And, I'm very blessed that we are financially fortunate after working hard for, so many decades. I said, hey, I want to do something more impactful for our community. And I have kids now. I want something that will be sustainable. And my wife and I agreed that instead of me retiring and bugging her at home, that I should have a more purposeful, purposely driven life. And I started looking at things that I felt needed to be addressed and, required more of my effort. And I think in the media space was, what we voted as an area that, could really use a boost.
Super. So I want to remind everyone what our topic is today. It's telling authentic Asian American story. So that's something has gone on for so many years, and I want to start with questions related to the past. What are these Asian stories in media, and what is the state of AAPI stories in Hollywood? Kind of going back to maybe some of the first golden age films portraying our community, a lot of stereotypes, right?
Of course. Well, I think before we discuss the AAPIs in Hollywood, let's take a look at the AAPIs in America, and let's consider the migration story and the history of America. From the Chinese, Filipinos, Japanese, Koreans, and everybody from the Asian migration that has been here in America, and then all the conflicts that have been with America have been with primarily Asian countries. World War II in Japan, Korea, Vietnam, right? So there's a lot of stuff that from our homeland and into the migration here to America. I think that the problem has always been that we've been perceived as foreign, right? Because
Yeah.
we've always been the immigrant that's been casted, I think, an extra light upon because we look different, because of our skin color, our origins, and then a lot of the stories that tie back. So as far back as these historic notions, like the Orient, and the Far East
Yeah.
trades, we've really been seen as foreign, and
Yeah.
little, has, I feel like in this day and age, has helped to really shift that narrative. And so we looked at, well, what is the problem here? And I think that a lot of the other community organizations are really tackling, the problem about, first of all, is curriculum, right? Is that we don't learn enough about, the Asian migration and, the history overall
Yeah.
about Asian Americans.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that because,
Yeah,
I remember as a kid, we never learned anything about it. Maybe in college, Japanese internment and Chinese Exclusion Act, but that's sad and that needs to be changed in our public schools.
absolutely. And there are organizations now like TAF that are doing a great job at getting that, awareness and getting states to adopt legislation that provide that curriculum. And, we need more of that. And we need more groups that support TAF and more people that support TAF. And, that's on the educational level. So that's one area that's being tackled. And, of course, all of the, very recent success in Hollywood with the Asian content, that's helping to shift that narrative, but it's not helping quick enough, and there isn't enough content that will, I think, have a drastic, and quick impact. And that's what we're, looking at, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
our history in the U.S., we've been erased, we've been ignored, and a lot of that history has sometimes been rewritten. So look at the
And
history of the United States and Hawaii, the Philippines, our Japanese Americans and our Chinese Americans, and yes, all of that's very sad, and all of that is history, but a lot of the environment today, I think, is uh, touching on that, right?
yeah.
And bringing that back to surface level, right? So a lot of the, the closet racism and a lot of the, I think, just the negative, stereotypes, a lot of that is resurfacing, and it's the political environment, the tension, right? And then a lot of the misperceptions of COVID, right? And the origins
Oh,
of COVID.
yeah.
And so
Yeah.
a lot of that needs to be repaired, right? So a lot of people are misled to believe that we're still foreign, we're taking jobs, we are
Yeah.
the absolute reason for everything that's gone wrong, and that is not true at all,
No.
right?
And they're seeing the stereotypes and they're perpetuated because we don't have that sort of chance to tell our authentic stories, right? So that's where you come in with the work
Yep.
that you're doing.
Yep, absolutely. And our past and presence in film and TV has evolved with Bruce
Yeah.
Lee, and it wasn't really until there was a long gap before that until we had Joy Club, right?
Yeah.
And then
I
another
remember
one,
that. I was so
right?
excited when
Of
that came
course,
out.
that
Yeah. Yeah.
headline, they used to headline box office stories with like more universal themes, and
Yeah.
then I always reflect back to Crazy Rich Asians, which I'm always very proud of, right? And that alone has been 7 years, right?
Believe
It
that.
Yeah,
I remember when that film came out, I
yep,
was so excited, and I think I kid you not, I think I saw it 8 times, and I even
yeah,
went to
as
Singapore
did I,
because of it,
as
and I'm
did I.
so proud,
Yeah,
to see all those Asian faces with an authentic, culturally correct story. Yeah.
yeah. So from between the time that Joy Club had, been released in theaters to the time that Crazy Rich Asians premiered, that was a 25-year gap. And today we're excited that they are developing Crazy Rich Asians too. And there were many other titles after that, but I think the universal themes, those
Yeah.
two titles, obviously, really resonate and stick out, right?
Yeah. And with Crazy Rich Asians, I want to say people in Hollywood and the producers and all, they saw our audiences and others, not just
Yep,
Asian people, going to the theaters, buying tickets, repeating I saw it 8 times, but I'm Asian, but other people, my other friends did too. And so
yep,
they saw that we are a force, we can buy tickets, we fill theaters as well, right?
yep, yep. So we're very bankable, and we've proven that. We've proven that. Yeah. So
Yeah.
by box office sales. And I think early on, we were very excited because we said, hey, if we can prove that we're bankable, this is it. This is our moment. And then that momentum sort of just dwindled. And, there are a lot of other counterparts to that from the Hollywood, economy. It's depressed state. Netflix disrupting, right, and the changes in the overall model, I think also contributed to a lot of that. But that's still a very big gap for us. I always say this: I'm already bald, and I tell my kids I don't know how many, you know, 25, 7 years do I have to wait for another Asian American blockbuster, right? And I'm kind of impatient. And so I think that we looked at this as the problem and we said, hey, how do we solve this? Right. So the way we wanted to solve this was to be able to help folks create the content, help folks package the content, help folks distribute it, and build an entire ecosystem that could sustain that. And we felt like, okay, it's time. It's time for us to put all those pieces together.
So, would you say that this is now the right time then for more Asian American stories and representation? If you want to expand upon that, this is the golden age in Hollywood
Yep.
for Asians, then, right?
Yep. Absolutely. And while Hollywood is in the depressed state, I view it as it's the golden state for Asian Americans and people of color. One, because 90% of a lot of the productions are down, and there are so many stories and IP that haven't yet been developed for people of color, and especially in the Asian American community, that it's time, right? That without all this other content that's distracting us from getting our stories told, now more than ever, we need to pull together our resources, get those stories that have been shelved or sitting there and haven't been told. Let's extract those, and tell that. And I think that the strength is in the numbers. And if we're able to tee that up in the next 24, 36 months and share that with the world, there's a decrease in other content that's available. And then now you'll see an increase in what we're able to output. I think that that's going to capture more eyeballs. And then people will recognize that all along, all of these stories were here. And
Yeah.
we were just waiting for the right moment to share those stories. So,
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about the part about how we always say, we are not a monolith, right?
yeah.
So that needs to come across too in some of these productions and things that we're seeing on screen.
Well, absolutely. We have so many, AAPIs in Hollywood. We have such great talent, both behind the camera and in front of in
Yeah.
front of the camera,
Yeah.
in front of the camera. And I think the best way to demonstrate that, we aren't that, monolith, is this English language content, right? We haven't had enough of an investment into English language programming that then makes it easier for the rest of America and the rest of the world to understand our stories and also make it more relatable, right? Is that the problem with in language and foreign language programming is that it automatically eliminates a lot of a lot of Americans, out of that equation to one, pay attention to those stories authentically. Because if they're relying on, like for instance, for me, I'm multitasking and I'm always listening to content versus actually eyeballs on the content. And if it's in a foreign language, it's very difficult for me to understand without following the subtitles. So that automatically eliminates someone like me to uh, ingest foreign content, right? Or I'm sorry, foreign language content, in language content. And so if you look at, and that's why podcasts are so popular. It needs to be in an understandable language that is very universal, that really mirrors America. And, I want to be able to showcase the Asian Americans that sometimes don't have, that foreign language as their first language. And I want to be able to share their stories. And the only way for us to be inclusive of everybody in America is to develop and showcase this content in the English language that can be understood. So,
Yeah. I want to ask you this question. At 3F, we always talk about the importance of the Asian American consumer, spending power, voting power, brand loyalty. But we're behind. We're often I always say, we get the lowest, smallest piece of the
mhm,
multicultural pie. And, we need groups like ours and members
absolutely.
like you help us to fight that fight. Let's make sure these brands realize the importance of our consumer segment. Same thing for Hollywood and productions and content. Wanted you to expand on that because I guess you're saying we need to organize and create this content and really showcase our consumer.
Absolutely. So I think, the early disruptors with YouTube did this very well. And why social media disrupted was because there were gatekeepers in Hollywood that didn't give them an opportunity to showcase their talent. I mean, for, a myriad of reasons. But they were able to get ad support. They were able to get the world to see that they had eyeballs. And that's the same thing that we're facing, right, within our
Yeah,
community. We need to
yeah,
showcase to the world that we can get eyeballs. And, uh, first off being Asian American and the first Asian American in English language programming provider, we need support from all the agencies. We need support from all of the big companies that place ads, right? To really work with us so that we can, one, raise awareness with, the rest of the audience, right? Capture that. And then also to be able to tell these stories. And it's I like to say it's like a seesaw, right? We have to have a balance. And when you invest in us by helping us drive the awareness with these advertisers, then we can then invest in the stories that can, really shape and tell, right, what's accurately, what should be accurately reflected within our community. It's almost like a chain of events that has to occur, and then also, does it circle around? But it requires a balance of all the parties. And I wouldn't be able to do this without you. And of course, there's tremendous value that we can deliver, to these advertisers, and they need to be able to see that and support that. Much like, when BET started, they started off as a content provider with just music videos, and in a span of 10 years, they were able to create and output a lot of the content that has shifted and shaped hip hop, shifted and shaped culture, right? And really rose to, market power, right? And that's the same view advertisers should look at, a company like ours, is that we are investing in telling these, stories that have never been told before. But how do we have that output if we don't garner the support? So
yeah,
we need that
yeah.
support, right?
Yeah, you say seesaw,
Yes.
chicken and egg kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Let's back up a little bit. And some of our friends here may not know about Chime TV. When did you
Okay.
launch? It was recently. I remember that. And how many stations, how many outlets, like where can people access your content?
Okay. Thank you for asking that. So, Chime TV was not my brainchild. Actually, Golden TV was my brainchild, and
Golden
it
TV.
was, yeah. Chime TV started off as a cable linear channel with Charter, and we're very appreciative of Charter's, ability to, one, see that these Asian American stories needed to be shared, and it's time. And then two, just Charter's overall support for the Asian American community that is clearly shown by their support of this channel on their platform. So Golden TV was the younger app that was meant to engage with the younger audience, people that weren't in the cable realm, and that were more of your second, third generation Asian Americans that really didn't have the English as a second language alternative. And it was to also there were a lot of tech functions that we wanted to implement that could help the creator community and help elevate the creator community. So those both roughly started at the same time about 2 years ago. So we are a very
Okay.
young network.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
for Chime TV, we're on channel 147 on Charter, and the digital streaming version of Chime TV can be found on Golden TV, which is the app, and we're on iOS, and we can be streamed online. We're on Roku, we're on Distro, and we are going to be on Vizio in 2 months, Samsung in a few more months, and so we are growing, and that's why you've seen some of our content really take shape into evolving into these authentic AAPI stories.
You doing in terms of your vision? I know you're very successful from your business standpoint, but where would you like to see Chime TV go? Um,
Well, I definitely would like to see it grow to 100 million households and beyond, in an Asian American household. I want all of America to enjoy this as a general entertainment channel, right? Because the goal isn't to just create all Asian American content. It's the goal to create cross community content, and that strengthens our community. And so
yeah,
we want to promote inclusiveness, and we want to showcase the stories from all Asian Americans, and not just cherry pick, Southeast Asians or East Asians, or it's everybody. And we're very interested in working with all Asian American communities to activate that.
yeah. Let's expand on that a little bit further. How can the community, those of the folks that are on the call today, how can they help, or how can their friends help? How can we all help make sure we have this authentic content?
That's a great question, and I have a long wish list, so I'm glad you asked. Well, first of all, is one, get the app, so download it. There's a lot of free content, and they're as little as $2.99 a month, and I always say it's less than a boba drink, right? Is that you're going to
Less
be
than a
able
boba
to
drink?
less than a
Yeah,
boba drink, and for $2.99 a month, you can now support building this ecosystem for Asian American stories, right? Is that today we may not have the big blockbusters yet, but the goal is to one day, get and achieve that. And the only way we're going to be able to do that is with the help of the community. And I've always said that the community, is first, and that's who's going to be able to help us build this. And I don't want it to just be, my vision. It should be a celebrated vision for all of our community, and everyone should look at it as a platform not only to once and for all tell our stories, but solve a distribution problem that we've faced. I've always said, anybody that makes a film, anybody that makes content, you need somewhere to put it. And if Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, if they don't take it, it just go into a black hole? That would be such a waste. And
yeah.
a lot of people don't know that there is now a home, and I like to call it the home for Asian American stories, right? So, uh, number one, download the app. Number two, if you're a creator and you're telling Asian American stories, look at us as an option. There isn't just Amazon, Netflix, and Hulu. Is that we are a very niche option, and I think the right option, right? So build with us. And then, of course, number three is, if you don't see us on Comcast next year, if you don't see us on Cox Cable or Direct TV, write to them, send them an email, get on their social media and ask them, why aren't you carrying the only Asian American English language network? And that will help, because they need to
Yeah.
understand that we have buying power, we have a voice, and often it's because we haven't been vocal enough, that not so much as they ignore us, but they don't even know, they're not even aware. So we need to make them aware that you guys are watching, you're listening, you're supporting, and
Taking
you
the
want
time
this.
to voice your
Absolutely.
opinion. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to go back to what you're saying about the content creators, because that's fascinating to me. So you're saying that you're an option for them. What's the process internally if they had an idea or wanted to pitch a story or a program or show?
Absolutely.
I was just curious with how that works.
Yeah, we hit us up on social media, and we have a
Okay.
team of people that we're increasing our team as we're growing, and we have a lot of different uh, folks that can help facilitate that. Jessica, who's wonderful. We have Queena. And anytime get to our website. There are a lot of folks that lead a lot of these initiatives, and they're out there in the community, and that's why we're also very actively engaging and supporting a lot of the community events. So that, don't be shy, come up to us and say, hey, look, I've got a project and it's been done, and I'd love to share it with you. Don't be afraid. And I think that now is a time more than ever to be disruptive, right? The traditional processes of getting your content in front of a showrunner or in front of somebody in
Yeah.
Hollywood and trying to get that activated, it's a lengthy process,
Yeah.
and
It's
a
hard for
lot.
someone, to go up
Absolutely.
to a stranger and, "Hey, I have an idea." Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but
We're
I think
different. We're very different, and
good. I'm glad to hear that.
I want our community to be receptive of it. If you see me, come up to me. If you see, any of the folks that are on our team, and you can figure them out on LinkedIn or through our socials. Make sure you come and talk to us, and we will get it on our radar, and we're listening, and that's where I think that we have some strengths there by comparison to most of our larger. I don't like to call them competitors because we're really in a category of our own. So like Netflix and Amazon and all those guys, they have massive. It's a massive company where things get lost, and they have internal processes that do take a long time for you to get to. But for us, we're growing. I think we're a little more disruptive, I'd say, right? So email us, shoot us, something on social. We'll look at it, and we're very collaborative, and in fact, a lot of the content that we're developing now, we're engaging with Asians all over the world
Mm,
to have that output, and we're next quarter we're going to be able to showcase a lot of these very unique, never before seen content, out there.
well, that sounds interesting. You piqued my interest. So, can you share a little bit more about what's your most popular content that you're seeing right now? Um,
So for a while, it was Iron Chef that was on Chime TV, and people loved that. And what's really funny was that wasn't always my favorite coming in, because I'm like, we have to showcase authentic Asian American stories, and Iron Chef is kind of dated.
yeah.
But the truth is that there are very few titles that are available in our library, and that's kind of what made us realize that, oh my gosh, we need to be the aggregator, and we need to start creating this library that has not yet been really developed. I mean, we've had some, titles that were on Netflix that, didn't make it to even season two, and that's not for race issues. That's another discussion. But it's just the economics of it didn't, work out. And I would say overall, out of all the licensed stuff, I really like Uncle Roger. And
Roger, I'm not familiar with that.
so he had his start on YouTube. He wears this bright orange polo shirt, and he's in character, and he does this accent, and he does these meal preps, with different people, and he
Oh,
showcases a lot of Asian meals, and it's satire, it's funny, it's very relatable to kids, and even my kids, like to watch it, and so I always look at first what piques my kids' interest. So outside of slime, they're watching Uncle Roger, and I'm like, hey, this is actually very entertaining, and it's not really sleepy like your regular cooking shows, and it's still oriented content. So
yeah. This brings everyone together, right?
yeah, yeah. But I
Right?
am excited about our originals, and that's kind of what we are pushing for, and we have a lot of them that will be released next year.
Okay. Any
So.
hints?
Well, so far the takeaway I really like with Michelle Park. She's very hardworking, and I overall like her as a person, and a professional. And some of the topics and the guests that she's had, I think, really reach a young audience, and that's
Mhm.
kind of what we are. We want to engage to. Is that we want a young audience base so that we can share these stories with them and instill, right, a lot of our culture, right, that still should be celebrated, into that content, right, one way or another, but really establish these younger connections, because the next generation is a big focus for us, because I think that that's who we should nurture, that's who we should elevate, that's who we should be incubating, and we want to inspire the next generation of talent. So
Super. I want to remind all our friends that we do have Q&A time at the end. So feel free to type those in um, as we continue to talk. I have a couple more questions for you, Takashi. Um,
yes.
what what would you say is the biggest challenge you're facing? I know you're going to tackle it head on, but just if you want to be candid with us. Wh-
So while I say that it's the golden age for Asian Americans in Hollywood, because we could disrupt with the massive amount of stories that we've held on to for such a long time. The economics, right, in the industry also make it very difficult to have partnerships and co-productions and distribution options outside of what we have in our ecosystem right now. And then I think with that, there are fewer, I think there are fewer productions that are embracing, people of color, just because of the numbers, right? Not so much because, for any other reason, but because of the industry's state itself. So that's, a challenging thing because I've always envisioned partnerships to grow this, and that, driving inclusion and having these collaborative, type of productions is the key, right, to building this. So that's hurdle number one. But I think hurdle two is also the market, the press market and advertising overall, right? We haven't seen, enough advertisers that have said, wait a second, we understand where you're going with this, and we see the marketability, and I think overall maybe there was a little bit of skepticism as to whether we were able to really launch this strongly and stay in the game, and I think that we've satisfied that skepticism. We've been doing this for a minute now, and I think we are here to stay. And I think early on there was a lot of question, about that. And then also, I think my predecessor had a different vision for this organization, as in comparison to me. But we are really growing this, and I think in the past 12 months alone, we've been able to demonstrate that we're steadily growing it. We are steadily job creating. We're steadily, producing all this content. And so I think that it's just we need people to take a second glance at this and trust this and support this, right? And by supporting it, it means all of the things that I said earlier.
Yeah,
Right?
spread the word.
Yep.
Tell a friend, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And going back to what you're saying about the advertisers, that's something 3AF is, that's our mission, right? Make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
advertisers see the power of the Asian consumer and realize that we're a force in our society.
absolutely,
And that's
absolutely.
why we really appreciate Chime TV being part of the 3AF family.
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
so I want to, okay, so I see two questions here. If I can switch to Q&A time. This is from Simon. What about getting Asian American produced TV, scripted, unscripted series made for TV, movies, etc., out of New York, San Francisco, and other major cities with Asian American populations?
We are absolutely supportive of that, and in fact, we are already taking pitches and hoping to work with a lot of creators to be able to share those stories. That excites me, more than anything. I think, in our Q1, Q2, we're looking at a lot of unscripted, only because we want to quickly deliver. There's a lot of stuff there that we've looked at that I think we're excited to share with the world, and so a lot of that was prioritized with the unscripted content. But scripted content is our, ultimate goal, right? And so that would be Q3 and Q4 of next year. And so we are welcoming, all creators, all other production companies. We'd love to have that conversation with you.
Super. Okay, here's another one. We have somebody who's interested. Are there any internships and or fellowships available at Chime TV? If not, what are other opportunities to get involved?
That is a great question, and the our goal was to job create and to be able to I think, activate a lot of the talent that we have in our community that normally I think would be unseen or eliminated from the job process, right? Not just because of job experience or age, but because they haven't really had the relationships or the support, and that's where I think we play a really missing piece of that puzzle. I always say that a lot of the community organizations have been really good at cultivating, talent. But job placement, we're still, throwing everybody out into the pool of only what's available. We haven't gone outside of that box to create a stable for ourselves. And now, for the first time ever, we're creating that stable, and slowly, I would love for it to overnight become, a war chest, a warehouse. But the problem is that, we need that support, and it's a complement of balance, right? Is that the more support we get, the more stories we can tell, the more jobs we could create, and the quicker we can get to, that Amazon or Netflix, status, but still stay true to our roots, which is to tell those Asian American stories and to employ people that share that vision.
Understand the community and our stories and our history, right?
Yes,
That's really
absolutely.
important as well.
Yeah. Send
Um,
send us send us an email or
hey,
find
that
us.
was an anonymous question, but go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Send
Send
your
us an email. Yeah,
information over to Takashi.
yeah.
Um,
We are looking at everybody. So
yeah, I want to talk while we're waiting for more questions to come in. We talked earlier about the importance of people in front of the camera, but also behind the camera. So, are you helping with that aspect of the business as well? That's really important too, I think.
absolutely. We have a lot of friends that are already in the industry, and we talk a lot about content that didn't get greenlit from other studios because of budget reasons. And truth be told, is that we shouldn't have just one or two, pieces of content a year. And the almost knee jerk reaction is we don't have a budget for it. And I always say, well, find the money, create a budget for this. Why are we always excluded, from this budget? And so, the decade long question to this has always been, where do we find the money, right? And
Yeah.
so I think by aggregating and having these discussions with a lot of these writers, producers, and directors that are behind the scene, that will build the momentum and also the understanding that we are here to invest in your stories. And I think that because there hasn't been a core investor, right, that has said, hey, we want all Asian American stories. That's going to take us a little bit of time, to build, but we're committed, to building that. So talking to these people that are routinely behind the scenes is equally as important as getting the support of talent that's on screen, and we are actively doing that.
Super. I don't see any questions, so I'm going to ask you another one that I have on my
Sure.
list. Um, where do you hope to see Chime TV in the next 5, 10 years? It sounds like you're got this great vision and you're going to accomplish it, but I want to just ask you, broad picture, best scenario. What would you like to see?
Oh, absolutely. Well, it's both Chime TV and Goat, and so on Chime TV side, I would love to see it, on all cable platforms and supported and received by all of the cable industry. That's one. And on the Goat and TV side, I'd love to see it shoot past the 50 million users, and because that's the only way that we'll be able to raise the awareness and get an audience for these authentic stories that we've been wanting to tell for so long, and nobody else has supported, right? So the idea, of course, is always, I want people that are also outside of our Asian American community to be digesting and shape shifting a lot of, or shifting the narrative to a lot of what these misperceptions of Asian Americans are. So
Yeah. Okay, I see another question from Trevor. How open are you to potentially funding products, and what formats are you most interested in helping fund within the narrative space? Also, how do early career filmmakers, like so many of us, gain access?
absolutely. So I think we're a little more accessible because we are more
Mhm.
receptive to Asian American stories. But one is we look at a couple of we have a development team that looks at, first of all, the IP, right? If that fits within our model and our mission. And then second, we look at the feasibility, and the feasibility meaning, I say this all the time, and it's not just with ethnic productions, is that gone are the days where you can spend $8 million an episode. The big boy streamers, uh, they learned that lesson a hard way, right? Is that when you inflate and overspend, now we're having a period of correction, right? So that's why there are these budget squeezes and budget cuts. So you have to look at your product and be true to what that budget should look like. Unless you have special effects and I always say Marvel characters, rumbling the earth and shattering things. You can't look at your independent piece as a multi-million-dollar production, because it's very difficult to recoup that unless you have A-list talent and strong IP. And even then, there are so many stars that have literally stars that have to align to make your content a blockbuster, right? So be true, right, to your product, and understand the finances that are involved. I think that there are a lot of missteps that early young filmmakers make by overspending, on things,
Mm,
and lean into resources, right? Reach out to people that have been filmmaking for a while. And I'm not saying that the guy that made, one short yesterday should be the guy that you go and, get career advice from, but there's Cape who can, give you
yep.
referrals. Our company, if it's the right project, even if we can't fully fund it, we can give you resources like cameras, put you with the right writer. I mean, there are so many organizations that can help you eliminate costs, right, and give you a reality check and truly tell you whether the script is, something that can progress or not. And I'm not going to say that every other studio or production company that has had eyeballs on it may be correct. Sometimes people have a different lens, but I think that you have to have real strategy and real math. It's math. So you have to have the real idea and concept as to how you're going to make this film look like you shot it for 10 million, but really spend $1 million on it and then transact it for more than that. And those are the economics that you should really go to a seasoned producer, a seasoned line producer, or even there's so many community leaders, and I think that this needs to be aggregated too. Is that reach out to Cape, reach out to Rideback, reach out to Gold House. All of these guys should be able to point you in the right direction. And while we're building this, our hope is to also be able to become the guideline and help set these parameters for young filmmakers so that they're on the pathway to succeed, right? Where we equip them with cameras, equip them with match them with the right writer, director, the producer, and the entire ecosystem that will help them become successful. And so early on, when you had asked what I envision, ideally, being a father, I would love to see this where we can become that incubator for these filmmakers, so that their content doesn't get lost in space, and that it gets to the right home, it gets transacted. And I always talk about sustainability, being able to make yet another one and another one after that. And the only way to do that is to be able to recoup what you invested into it and to have the confidence of the community to receive it. So
I like what you said about, reaching out to others and community groups, and CAPE is great. And, we all want to help each other,
yep,
make sure that our
absolutely.
stories are authentic and not stereotypical.
Yep,
Um,
yep.
we have one person who wrote a nice compliment. It's not a question. Just want to say thank you for doing this. Wish this existed when I was younger. So,
Oh, thank you.
isn't that nice? So,
That is very
Takashi,
nice.
in our last couple of minutes, I want to give you the opportunity. Any words of advice, words of wisdom, closing comments, to our friends here on the call?
So I'm going to be very honest that when I sat through a Comcast meeting with the executives and was pitching to them why they should carry us, the very first question they asked me was, the Asian community, Asian American community is very fragmented. And we've tried having a Korean channel, we've tried having a Chinese channel, but it didn't unify, the community. And why do you think that Chime TV would be able to do that? And I said, well, first of all the content that you've had has been in language, and that hasn't helped, right? And that was really what resonated with me, is that if we maintain the mission of, having original content output in the English language, then more people will be able to understand our stories. And I feel like that's been the disconnect all along. So I, also want to share that the one gala that I went to, which is the Unforgettable Gala, and it was originally founded by the Rue family. The very first time that I was there, that was the first time that I saw in the room all kinds of Asian Americans gather and celebrate each other. And that to me was like a Christmas moment because growing up, I didn't really have that. I have a Japanese first name and a Chinese last name, and so the Chinese kids were kind of, you know, questioning question mark, you know, are you Chinese? Are you Japanese? And you know, none of those kids really wanted to play with me. And then the Japanese kids were just in their own, you know, in their own circle. And so I developed friendships with a lot of the other, you know, Asian Americans and mostly non-ethnic folks because they just probably thought I was just Chinese, you know, or they didn't really care. And I always felt growing up that I wanted to, you know, do something that united our community. And I think we've always just been unfairly singled out. And I think because of that language issue, right? Like, for instance, when you go to France, you don't really get introduced as the French Chinese guy. You know, you don't get introduced as a French Japanese guy. He's just the French guy, right? I mean, I'd love to be one day just as, you know, introduced as the American guy, you know. And I think I want that for you know, my kids and their kids and the next generations to come. And I'm hoping that, you know, with this, you guys will be able to help us, you know, achieve that. And when I talk about Unforgettable Gala, one of the reasons why I was so adamant about, you know, partnering with that and bringing that into our ecosystem is that we've long celebrated Asian Americans in Hollywood, and up until last year, it didn't even get a broadcast. So the rest of, you know, America, the rest of the world didn't really know that this existed. And so it's things like that that I am trying to champion, and that, you know, where I see, you know, the ability to bring everybody into one room and celebrate each other and share those stories. I think those are important bridges for our community. And you know, again, I can't say enough that, you know, this channel isn't for me. This channel is for us, and you know, it's time because our Black community friends, they did it and they did it well with BET, and there's really no reason why us as a community can't stand up and, you know, spread the word and for $2.99 a month, and even for free, right? There's not, you know, you don't have to pay the $2.99 a month. There's free content on there as well, but we need to show up in numbers, right? And that's what's going to demonstrate to Comcast and DirecTV and all of the rest of the antiquated cable world that we are actually united. And you know, Koreans are watching, Korean Americans are watching, Chinese Americans are watching, Filipino Americans are watching, and it's because our channel shares stories that accurately reflect that. So
We're out of time. I want to thank you, Takashi, again for sharing all your insights and your encouragement and your words of wisdom. Really appreciate it. Thank you all as well for joining our 3AF webinar. I mentioned earlier that we have one more webinar. It's November 13th. Daynam will be speaking on the next billion-dollar opportunity. We hope you'll join us then. And also feel free to reach out to me at 3AF if you have any questions. We are trying to make sure that our community is not left out, right? We don't want the smallest piece of the multicultural pie anymore, and we're here to stay. And people like Takashi and I and 3AF need your support as well. So again, thank you all for joining our webinar. Have a great day.
thank you.
Thank you.